sometime earlier this month in December, the OPP confirming that after reviewing what the government gave it, it has launched a investigation into the company, Keel Digital Solutions.
Welcome back to Closer Look. Hey, it's Joe Bowen night at Scotiabank
Tuesdays
Arena.
here, yeah.
Tuesday is here. Man, time flies. Eh?
I know. I did rewatch it. I don't usually watch the show. We get it done, I put it up, and that's it. Move along to the next one because we're doing a daily show, Scott. There's a lot of effort to get that.
I know it is.
But I did watch because we run some great snippets on the weekends. For those of you who don't know, 7 o'clock on Saturday, Sunday. There's always a snippet from a previous show. Usually hooked to some interesting piece of news.
Yeah.
So I rewatched Joe Bowen because I was picking the clips to do that. And it was just a great conversation. The guy, you could just clearly see why so many people think the world of him because he has a job that you could seriously put on a pedestal, but he doesn't act like it at all.
No.
And that's why he's so successful. That's why people love him so much.
Yep.
So tonight's Joe Bowen night. He's going to be honored. I'm sure, like I said, he's going to thank us for sure for that great conversation.
Kidding? Goes without saying.
Thank Derek Turner for that fantastic goal.
That was awesome.
But that was great. I was glad we were able to. Those are some of the most fun conversations we have. So if you haven't checked it out, Joe Bowen sat down with us for half an hour talking about his career, how excited he is and nervous about tonight.
Yeah.
It was a great conversation.
Well, it's got to be a bit of a script flip for him, right?
Yes.
Because now he's the star.
He's the star,
and you're not used to being.
And you know what I thought about because I was wondering why are they doing it in the middle of the season, but it makes sense, right? Because the Leafs, hopefully have a bit of a run in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And when it ends, everyone's going to be upset if they don't win the cup.
Right.
Which probably, I don't want to say anything.
Don't jinx it.
Yeah, So then no one's going to want to celebrate Joe Bowen at the end of the season. So let's get it going now. It's the middle of the season. People are excited.
And I think the other factor, I think Chicago is only in Toronto once this season.
Yeah.
And it was Chicago that he called back in 1982.
And the Foligno connection from back home in Sudbury.
Yeah, it just all connects.
Yeah.
Anyway, we wish Joe all the best tonight. Okay, a lot of chatter lately about public servants being asked to return to the office.
Yeah.
Lots of comments.
That was the other snippet I ran on Saturday. Alex Gallagher, remember him? He came on. He's from Engage HR.
Yes.
And he just talked about the pros and cons of remote work, and it was a very calm conversation, right?
Unlike the comments.
But man, when you put that out there, people go bonkers because the Ford government's all in the province of Ontario. There, he's saying, well, I want everybody back to work 5 days a week. And in federal public servants, I believe, I'm going to get this wrong, I believe the current rule is right now everyone has to be in the office 3 days a week, and if you're a manager, you have to be in 4 days a week.
Right.
And Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, talked last week about how he's looking at, you're going to hear in the near future, they kind of come up with their plan for the public service, also at the same time where they're going to be promising to cut the public service.
Yeah.
And it's a fair debate, right? First of all, who would have thought we'd be talking about, until COVID, you went to work, right? That's the way it was. But after COVID, there are some pros and cons, right?
Of course.
There's cost issues too, like you don't have to rent the office space for people.
Yep.
But there are some professions actually work better when you're working at home. You're quiet, you can do it. And others, you need that collaboration. So there's a lot of factors to consider. And so clearly people don't love the all or nothing. It's either all remote or all at the office. And the comments, we got hundreds of comments on that snippet.
Oh, and I love the one, I got to go to work 5 days a week, so you should have to too.
Yeah, well, they're still working.
Exactly.
They're just working at home. And some MPs, interestingly enough, from the Ottawa area, right, especially the rural Ottawa area,
right,
they're saying you might lose some good young public servants because they're like, well, I don't want to commute an hour into Ottawa. Do you have to really do like, what if he comes in a few days a week, a couple days a week, him or her? I mean, it's just, and what Alex said on our show was talent wins.
Right.
If whatever your organization is, whether you're a baseball team or a media company or the government, you want to get the most talent in the room to do the mission of whatever your operation is.
Absolutely.
And if that talent means that you're not necessarily going to sit, because works both ways. You can have someone with zero talent just sitting at a desk doing nothing all day.
Well,
this is just Exhibit A. Here's the desk. Here's the seats.
Your Honor, I'd like to introduce an evidence Exhibit A.
Exactly, right? Right? Or you have someone like Derek, who sometimes works at home but does way more work than everybody else to get it all going on.
There's the difference right there.
But then when he says, I'm not coming in, we're like, oh, man, why aren't you coming in?
We're here, damn it. You should be here too.
You should work 5 days a week, Derek. Anyways, yeah, but it's amazing that the debate. So it was just a snippet of Alex's comments of the pros and cons and what people have taken into consideration, and it just people went crazy talking about it.
And then you throw in Joe O'Connor, another former guest, into the mix, who says we should be doing this in 4 days.
Well,
or
that's
less.
a whole other
Exactly.
Yeah. But that argument is that we can actually condense the work week into 4 days, actually where you're working the entire time more efficiently,
right?
And you get Friday off or Monday off or whatever you want to do. To me, I think it's, you got to accomplish the mission, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to work a lot of extra hours to accomplish the mission.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't have to work that many hours. It's about working smart.
That's an interesting choice. If you had to choose or got to choose between working hybrid or working a 4-day work week, which would you pick?
Oof, there's a question. Let us know. What's the email address?
Closer look at villagemedia.ca. Derek's always working. He will respond to you.
But just last point on that, we did put a poll at the bottom of that clip,
right?
And I think by far the get back to the office 5 days a week was the number one.
Really?
Yeah. So people are like, yeah, I get your, because I think it's this, fair or not, it's this idea that public servants are somehow getting it easy by not coming into the office.
Yeah.
So there you go.
There we go. Okay.
Speaking of taxpayer dollars,
see, it's one segue.
I know,
right after another.
It's crazy.
The Skills Development Fund, I'll tell you, it's the gift that just keeps on giving.
Yes.
Literally.
That's right. Our CEO, Jeff Elgie, likes to talk about how at Christmas time we need to be not thinking ahead and saying next year's going to be great. We need to think about all the great stuff we accomplished this year.
Looking back.
And I don't usually think like that, so he's right. He's right. He's right on that.
We won't tell him he's right.
And exactly. He won't listen anyway. No. So, but the reality is, if you talk about someone or a group of people that's done an amazing job in 2025, it's our team at the Trillium, which is our Village Media's bureau at Queen's Park. They've knocked it out of the park with their reporting on the Skills Development Fund. This is the fund where the Ford government gives to companies and unions to help retrain workers.
Yes.
It's one of their signature projects.
Yes, $2.5 billion.
Thing, right? And the Trillium started digging in with some FY requests about who's getting the money. Uncovered, some connections between, well-connected lobbyists, people who donated to the Ford government, leaders who companies then received money. Then the Auditor General drops this whopper report talking about how the criteria, the way they picked them wasn't fair. Yeah. Some with low scoring were actually getting approved and some with higher scoring were not. And then it's kind of gone on from there to the point where one company's now under OPP investigation because of an audit.
Right.
And so it's kind of been a trickle effect. And just to remind everybody, we also launched a crowdfunding campaign at the Trillium because our latest round of FOI requests that we put in for information regarding the fund came back with like a $12,000 price tag. So we've asked our readers to say, hey, if you support the work we're doing and you want to help, contribute to this if you can. And we're up over $8,000 of people, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So it's been a great response in the comments, people talking about how this is important work we're doing and we need to know the truth about this fund, and it's been very rewarding. I've had zero to do with it. They obviously I keep in touch with the Trillium, and they tell me what they're working on, and I give my odd piece of advice here and there. We've had to talk to some lawyers over the stories that we're writing
a few times,
but they've just done amazing work, and we're all proud of the work they've done, and it's been amazing to see just how many days of this fall session where the question period was dominated by the reporting that the Trillium was doing on the Skills Development Fund. So amazing work to them. I'm sure we are going to look ahead to 2026, and it will be fantastic. Yeah. Charlie Pinkerton, one of the reporters from the team who has been leading the way with his coverage, is going to join us tonight to talk about kind of where we're at, to kind of take stock, and to talk about one company in particular, the one who's under OPP investigation.
The Ontario Legislature is now officially on its Christmas break, with Ontario MPPs not set to return to Queen's Park until March 23rd. Lots of people have opinions on that, but that's a whole other story. Tonight we're going to talk some more about the story that dominated the legislature this fall, the Ford government's $2.5 billion Skills Development Fund, and where some of that money ended up. Charlie Pinkerton, one of our reporters at the Trillium, is here with the latest. Charlie, thanks as always for joining us.
No problem. Always happy to do this.
All right, we'll get into the Skills Development Fund in a sec, but March 23rd, Charlie, have you ever seen a break that long at the Ledge?
Maybe last summer. I don't know. I haven't counted the days exactly, but I think this is a part of an ongoing trend with this government that we've seen that they, increasingly like to keep these sittings short, and with the majority, they can do that.
All right, good stuff. Okay, let's kick things off with a bit of a refresher, Charlie, for the benefit of the audience. Remind us all, what is the Skills Development Fund?
Yeah, so the Skills Development Fund, if folks haven't heard of it, is in one way, it's the topic that dominated the fall sitting at Queen's Park, but it is a program through Ontario's Ministry of Labour that goes back to 2021 that the Ford government created, and through which they've given out, upwards of $1.3 billion in grants to, support companies, nonprofits, union groups, labor associations, municipalities, you name it, their workforces in various ways. For the most part, these have been training initiatives, but money's been used in all sorts of ways. So it's a very significant chunk of funding, and why it came to dominate the fall sitting and the conversation at Queen's Park was, well, for a few reasons, one of which was a Auditor General's report that came out at the beginning of October about the Skills Development Fund, which, was quite critical. It found a number of things, essentially, that staff in successive Labour ministers' offices had overruled public servants' advice on, really hundreds of occasions, going with lower scored applicants for funding over higher ones. And, there's really a lot in that report. The fact that the Labour Minister's office had been making the decisions was something that the Auditor General, essentially pointed out as abnormal versus other jurisdictions in the country. The other part of why it came to be so talked about at the legislature this fall is because of reporting that we did at the Trillium and that others did that really highlighted various connections, whether it be from the funding recipients themselves, through their lobbyists, really, you name it. And it came to just be the nonstop talk of Queen's Park for the last however many weeks it was.
Yeah, it happens sometimes where one story can take off, and it's usually one media outlet sort of driving that bus. But this was just a great example that it was every day they were talking about this in the Ledge. Yeah. They were hammering the government over mostly revelations coming from the Trillium. At one point, Marge Stiles was actually kicked out of the legislature for using a bad word against the government, all related to this funding. And just to give you your team credit too, Charlie, we've talked about this in the past, is you guys started digging into this fund before the Auditor General's report, and we're discovering some things like you just said about funding being given to people with connections to the government, whether it be company leaders that had donated to the PC party, whether it be connected lobbyists. And then the Auditor General kind of drops this bombshell. And then right after that, it picked up again with the reporting you've done. And we specifically, I think, want to focus on Keel Digital Solutions for a little while, Charlie, because that's one of the companies that's really kind of taken off as a big talker. Bring people up to speed. Right after the Auditor General released his report, you realized that the Labour minister's not actually there for the announcement, and then you dug in and found some things out. What did you find out?
Yeah, so on the day that the Auditor General released her report, a day like that is pretty common for the minister or ministers. Oftentimes multiple reports are released, which was the case back on October 1st. That are responsible for, the files, the programs, the agencies, whatever it may be that her office has audited, they'll come and respond to the findings. And on that day, on October 1st, there were 3 ministers of the Ford government who came out, and one who was wheeled out on TV, kind of like how I saw. I guess the topic, everything that was contained in the Auditor General. It didn't exactly, I guess we didn't really think too much of it that the Labour minister wasn't there. It was before the legislature had resumed sitting, so it wasn't too out of the norm. That said, a few days later, we were told what we came to report the next week, which was that the Labour minister that following weekend had been in Paris at the wedding of a lobbyist who had a couple of clients who got funding and, received funding that the Labor Minister's office had approved. So that really, I guess, took things up a notch. The Labor Minister then proceeded to go on to a radio interview, talk about one of those companies, which is Get Ahead or Keel Digital Solutions, and say that they were a lower scored applicant, and then talk about how he personally was involved in selecting lower scored applicants. I think it was the day after that we at the Trillium published our story on the Parisian wedding, that we had another story on how the Labor Minister David Piccini had, several months before he became Labor Minister, being photographed rinkside at a Toronto Maple Leafs game, in those expensive, nice tickets, with a director of one of the companies that the lobbyist of the Paris wedding, was associated with. So those sort of two stories combined really ramped things up. Then came, early November, when the government got the results of an audit into that same company, Get Ahead, Keel Digital Solutions. And that sort of led to more developments as of late, but I'll sort of yield the floor so you can take it wherever you want on that front.
So, Charlie, Keel Digital Solutions, this is a company that has received tens of millions of dollars in provincial funding to operate a platform that links to students, first responders, and First Nations communities. Is that accurate? That's what we understand about the company. Not all of that funding, and in fact, most of that funding did not come from the Skills Development Fund. I guess what we know is the largest contract that company has had with the government predates the funding it received from the Skills Development Fund. It was paid about $32 million over a few years by the Ministry of Colleges and Universities to provide its platform and the services on it to most students at most universities and colleges across the province, but it did get $7.5 million, I believe it is, in recent years from the Skills Development Fund as well.
So then, Charlie, after this reporting has all come out, we find out that there was an audit done on Keel Digital Solutions from the Ministry of College and Universities that showed some irregularities. What do we know about that audit, and then what happened after that?
Yeah, so we don't know much about that audit, and that has been that was really a lot of the talk at Queen's Park for the last month. What we do know is that, according to the OPP, the Ford government contacted it in early November with the findings of what it's described as a forensic audit. That forensic audit was sparked by an earlier audit of payments from the Ministry of Colleges and Universities. So anyhow, when the government got back its forensic audits findings in early November, they went right to the OPP, and they kind of stopped talking about the company at that point. So, we on a number of occasions have tried to ask ministers, et cetera, and they're all very tight-lipped about, what the audit found specifically. And it ultimately led to, might have been last week, sometime earlier this month in December, the OPP confirming that after reviewing what the government gave it, it has launched a investigation into the company, Keel Digital Solutions, which was formerly known as Get Ahead. That's why I keep describing it as that. But, it's been a very strange situation because the company itself has, like it said on a number of occasions, it feels like it's being scapegoated. It says it hasn't seen the findings of the audit. So there really isn't too much known about what specifically that audit found. The government has been quite defensive, and naturally so, given all the fuss over the Skills Development Fund, to say that, this was not about the Skills Development Fund. But the OPP more recently has said that, the information they were provided related to payments from the Ministry of Colleges and Universities, that doesn't mean that their investigation is only going to be about payments from that ministry.
Mm-hmm. Just as someone who's been reading all the coverage, what's been interesting is Keel has not just said we deny any wrongdoing, we didn't do anything wrong. They're actually saying this is a political mess, and we are looking forward to the day the government apologizes to it. Does that surprise you to see such a confident denial?
There are a number of things at play here. Keel, and it's not that old of a company. It's only been around for a few years, and it's really benefited from, the tens of millions of dollars it's received from the provincial government. I don't have access to their finances. No one outside of the company does, but based on what we know about it, certainly the contracts it's had with the provincial government and the funding it's received through the Skills Development Fund have been quite helpful to it. So to see the company come out and criticize the government so harshly, I don't think it necessarily sets them up to have a very much a likelihood of a prosperous business relationship going forward, I guess, would be my assessment. So for that reason, it's a bit strange. But also, as Keel said, they don't feel as though they've done anything wrong, and they feel like they've been left in the dark here. So I totally see why they're being so critical.
So what's happening now, Charlie? Service providers are scrambling, I guess, because the platform is essentially shut down?
Yeah. So Jessica Smith-Cross, the editor of the Trillium, she had a story the other day speaking to one of the mental health providers that provides their service through Keel's platform, and that service provider had a lot of very strong things to say. They said that they were very disappointed in the funding being cut off like that, because a lot of these services are provided to students. Like the timing of this right before exam season was something that they mentioned, that it's high stress times, and all of a sudden these folks who have relied on this don't have access to it. So they're not very happy. Pretty much nobody is happy here. That's a theme, I guess, of this whole situation. But yeah, in terms of what else is going on right now, the OPP is investigating. The OPP tends to not say much about their investigations. How long that'll take, I have no clue. How involved the Ford government will be, we really don't have much of an idea. But it's something that we're going to keep monitoring going forward.
We talk about these kinds of investigations, and the impact they have on average folks. And this is a real example of that, right? Because you're seeing, whether it be first responders, students, there was going to be some counseling offered to First Nations communities via this platform. So it's actually having a very real impact on individual people. I guess I'm just wondering, Charlie, what other choice did the government have? I mean, here they have a company that's under OPP investigation. Was there another option besides just shutting it down?
See, we don't know. We really don't know, because again, the government has just repeatedly said that as soon as they receive the findings of the forensic audit in November, that they handed things over to the OPP. So we don't really know what else they could have done. But if you're to take the company's word for it, they certainly don't think that all this funding should have stopped. But that's sort of a question I'll have a better answer to in the future.
Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of the future, a lot of this reporting you guys have done has been fueled by Freedom of Information requests. It's what you guys do very well at the Trillium. It's what uncovered the first stories in this sort of trickle effect that we've seen over the fall. And we just, our listeners all already know this, but you have filed a bunch of other FOI requests for further information about the Skills Development Fund, and it came back with kind of an astronomical price tag from the FOI directors, and sort of the tune of around $12,000. And as we've reported in the past, we've launched a crowdfunding campaign to try to raise money to help pay for these FOI requests. The argument being that these are records that the public has a right to see, and our promise is to share them with people when we get them, if we get them. And I'm happy to report we're over $8,000 in contributions, which is an amazing thing. It shows you that people are paying attention to the reporting the Trillium's doing, that people care about it and they think it's valuable. And some of the comments, I'm sure you've read some of them, Charlie, just people saying like how important this is to hold governments to account and to understand the truth. Specifically on Keel Digital Solutions, Charlie, what are we asking for, and sort of what's the next step of as you look into this company and to look into these contracts?
Yeah, so we probably don't have them in front of me, but we probably have 10 plus freedom of information requests related to that company. The one that we were charged, it was something like, I paid the installment on this. It was something like a little over $2,000, was for essentially the records and documents from the labor ministry that show how it came to get skills development fund money from the government. So that one, I have since been given a 240-day delay by the Ministry of Labor. I have appealed that delay. So we are now early in the appeal process. I'm told that appeal process shouldn't make that delay any longer. So hopefully we come in on top there, get that time trimmed down. And for anyone who can donate and give to our cause, not just for that FOI, but for a number of these others of ours that can really help continue to shine a light on this, it would just be greatly appreciated and helpful, and I think in the public good.
And we'll be sure to put a donate button in the story.
That's right. Contribute. It's not a donation.
You're correct.
Yes, that's right.
I was wrong in saying that, yes. Great work, as always. Charlie, anything else to add before we let you go?
No, just, don't buy your kids Christmas presents this year, and give money to the Trillium instead, so we can keep doing good work.
I'm glad you said it, because I wanted to say it, but I didn't want to sound like the Grinch. So thank you, Charlie.
And if you're, I was just going to say, if you're a small child and for some reason you're listening to this podcast, you go into your parents' purse or their wallet and you take their credit card. You donate. No, I'm just kidding.
Says Charlie Pinkerton.
It's not a donation.
There's the headline. Kids, grab your parents' credit card.
Kids steal from mom and dad. From an undisclosed location tonight, enjoying some well-earned time off from the Trillium. There's Charlie Pinkerton. Charlie, always good to see you. Happy holidays.
Thanks, guys. You too.
Okay, we joked off the top about hybrid and remote working. I want a job where I'm off till March 23rd.
Yeah, it's a good key. Why?
Still getting I know they still work and they're still doing stuff in their in their constituency, but the optics,
yes,
right? That's the word. The optics of it.
I'm no political expert, but it is interesting to see when you have a huge majority, what you'll try to get away with and what you won't, right? I mean, the Ford government has a big majority.
Sure.
They decided to vote on the ideas. They usually come back in February after the Christmas break. They're coming back at the end of March. And, maybe there's a few people who are angry about it, but the average person who's thinking about their job and buying Christmas presents and not thinking about when the provincial legislature is coming back.
It does make one wonder, though, given the heat that has been on the government for so long, largely in part due to the great work by the staff at the Trillium.
For sure.
If they extended that break just to,
yes,
let's delay this as long as we can.
For sure. For the record, too, we don't want kids to go into their parents' wallets and take their credit cards.
No,
that was just a joke.
Look, I've got nothing in mind, so
just in case anybody's listening, we don't want to say, "What Scott told me to do that."
For the record, it was Charlie. It was not me. Charlie Pinkerton, care of the Trillium. Just to be clear.
That's great.
All right, good stuff. Again, tonight, closer look at villagemedia.ca. Sign up and subscribe. We'll send you an email every day through closerlookpodcast.ca. Love doing that, especially the rewind on the weekend. We'll send you all 5 episodes in case you missed any. Derek Turner, as always, at the controls this evening. For Michael Friscolanti, our editor-in-chief here at Village, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Enjoy your night. Joe, have a great night tonight. You deserve it. We'll talk to you tomorrow night at 7 right here on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.